This is TWiT.
Mick, I live in New Jersey these days, like across the river from New York, which is where space.com is based. And obviously the big story here is that we have crazy unexplained drones flying all around and people are catching them on video.
Well, not anymore.
Well, there were. Yeah. No one's explained them. I over the holidays, I had so many pointed out to me that were clearly just airplanes, but that's beyond the point. And of course, in your experience, there were a lot of other, we used to call them UFOs, but I guess now they're called UAPs these days, where people have rock solid video evidence about them. And then I watched you very expertly just take down one after another, like on a live newscast. In some of the videos we were doing during research, that was pretty expert there. And I guess the question there is how that video technology has really been, either advancing or adding to this trend, and this where that technology fits in, like the story of how these theories are being put out there. We had the Navy videos that made a big splash a few years ago, and I think that's the discussion still going on now. And I'm wondering how you've seen that evolve over time, because we all have one, in the palm of our hand, that we can catch this. And I would have assumed that if the little green men were here or whatnot, we would have a lot more concrete evidence than perhaps that we would have currently.
Yeah, I think it's really made a big change in ufology since the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s. Back then, people were asking the same question: why don't we have good video of UFOs? Several people have video cameras. Would have been the thing that they would say back then. And now, of course, it's literally tens of thousands of times more video cameras, and the cameras are 100 times better. You can just whip them out and be recording 4K video instantly, and they often have multiple zooms and things like that. So it's really kind of changed things. And I think the New Jersey drone flap has been very illustrative of what's actually going on here, because we got a lot of people, thousands of people, at least hundreds of people, taking video of what they thought were drones, and then they're posting it online and they're saying, look at this, what I saw. I saw this fly over my head. It was definitely not a plane. It was this car-sized thing that's about 200 feet up, and then they'll show the video. So we've got something that we really didn't have before. We've got this collection of eyewitness accounts, and then the videos that they took of what they saw. So we've got the whole package. Whereas back in the day, we would just have mostly eyewitness accounts and very, very few videos. So now we're able to compare the eyewitness accounts to the videos. And not only do we have the videos, we usually have, in a lot of cases, the location, and we have the date and the time, and we figure out what direction they're looking in, so we can go back and we can look at the actual flight data around that particular time. And pretty much every single case that we looked at, it turned out to be a plane. Mm-hmm. So we've got people actually convinced that they saw something that wasn't a plane, and they were convinced it was 200 feet up, and then they take video of it, and they're still convinced even after they've seen the video that they themselves took. And then you show them that it was actually a plane, and some of them will reject that, but a lot of them were like, oh yeah. But back in the day, before we had all this, all we had were these eyewitness accounts. So we just had people who were convinced they saw a giant triangular craft, like car-sized thing with lights flying over their heads 200 feet up. We've got no way of knowing what that actually was. But based on what we've been seeing, it probably was something like a plane. Misidentifications are huge now. They were huge back then.
That's what they want you to think. Right, Rod? That's what they want you to think.
This brings up a point. So I worked at Griffith Observatory for about 10 years back in my college days. So in the late 70s, early 80s, the area you're talking about, when the best you had was probably, 400 ASA black and white Tri-X film to shoot these things. And we would get calls pretty much every day from people. I seen a UFO kind of calls. And it became pretty clear, a couple of things became pretty clear to me anyway, and became kind of the party line, which is it's really hard for people to identify things in the sky because we're really used to identifying things on the ground. How far is that stop sign? how far is that building, because I'm judging by the parallax with the building behind it as I'm driving by to tell how far away it is, how much haze, you may not be objectifying it, but how much haze is there between me and the thing I'm looking at. And with some things in the sky, you lose all those kind of points of comparison, and people really have no sense of size, speed, anything else. And I think this kind of was, I asked you before we came on about the Go Fast video, which is where I first saw your work. These are military pilots, but if you're looking, for instance, at something between your high-speed moving jet and the sea below you that may be moving in a different direction, even with FLIR radar, it's really hard to tell what's going on, isn't it? Isn't that part of the problem?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is our human brains have not evolved to look at things that are high in the sky. We look at things on the ground, we look at maybe birds, but things that are 5 miles up in the sky, we just have no idea. Things that are 5 miles below us, the brain just does not compute. We don't have the kind of like the mental framework to actually look at that. And when it's zoomed in, which is the case of this Go Fast video, the one you're showing here is the gimbal video, but this is a similar type of thing. We're looking at an object that's many miles away. The motion you see isn't actually the motion of the object. It's actually the motion of the camera. We're actually being filmed from an FA-18 jet, and it's zoomed in about the optical equivalent of a 2,000 millimeter lens on a camera, which would be like a huge lens. Most big zooms you see get top out at 600. So it's about half a degree field of view right there. So this isn't something the human brain can actually comprehend and figure out the relative motion and things like that. And even if you're a fighter pilot, you're not trained to visualize that particular thing in 3 dimensions. You're trained to like intercept things. You're trained to identify threats. You're trained to hit targets. You're not trained to spot UFOs. You're not trained to like analyze UFOs. So it's very easy to fall for these kind of illusions. Another big one is one that I saw a lot in the chemtrail days, which is if a plane is flying towards you, it looks like it's flying straight up. And this is something that just, it's quite hard to actually convince people of this thing, because you will see these contrails in the sky that are either going straight up or they're going straight down. And lots of people just assume that's, it's something like a rocket launch, or it's a plane that's descending, or it's a plane that's climbing. But these are all just planes in level flight. A plane flying at 40,000 feet, flying away from you, just looks like it's just dropping straight down. If it's flying towards you, it looks like it's going straight up. Or if it's to the side of you, it looks like it's going at a bit of an angle. And until you actually kind of take a step back and look at it from 3 dimensions, it's very difficult to understand what's going on. And then you get the same thing with UFOs. You'll see a plane in the distance. I had this case just today. Someone sent me a video. It was a light, in the distance next to Venus, and it was slowly rising up in the sky. So it seems like something hovering over the distant hills, but it was actually a plane about 30 miles away coming straight towards them. And it just looked like it was rising because it was getting closer to them.
Huh. See, there's an explanation for everything, Rod.
That's why he's here.
Yeah. Well, I did want to ask you those Navy videos, earlier kind of set off. I don't know if it's like a renewal or what do you call that, Rod?
It
like
was
a renaissance.
Renaissance. That's the word.
Yeah.
That's the word.
Yeah.
So much so that, we cover NASA, and NASA put their own committee together, and, had a lot of public meetings, and everyone was really following it. And I'm just curious if that pattern that you observed there has just mirrors what we've seen from the UFO reports and investigations of the past, or is it because of the technology involved, like a new era or a new age of both a lot of these claims and the debunking? Because you said earlier that that there's that pattern of everyone reporting it still, but now they have all the video. And I would hope that a military video would have all of the information that we need to know what's what. But I'm just curious about these cases in particular, if there is something truly different about the technology pace now from these reports.
Well, the videos that we see are actually, the technology is not that new. The FLIR 1 video from the Nimitz incident, that's back from like 2004 or so. So it's a long time ago, like nearly 20 years ago. Well, it is 20 years ago now. And that's But the thing is, we as a public have not seen these types of videos before. So these are the things that might have existed, like in the military, is like not shown them to you because these military training is classified and stuff like that. And we just got these there's 3 ones that were leaked out now. The gimbal video, which looks like this flying saucer that's rotating. There's the go fast video where it looks like it's going very fast over the water. And then this FLIR 1 video, which comes from the Nimitz incident, which just looks like a little fuzzy blob doing nothing in the background. And these are all things that are very difficult to understand from a human perspective, like I was saying. So you show these things, like the gimbal video, for example. It looks like an actual flying saucer. It looks like it's flying along, and then it kind of like rotates on its ends, and that would be something that's aerodynamically impossible. But there are actually explanations for these things. The rotation of this flying saucer, the gimbal, actually comes from the gimbal system of the camera. This is this simulation that I did where I took all the parameters that we can get from the video, because there's lots of numbers on screen, and created a 3D recreation. And it turns out that the rotation of the object matches exactly what the rotation of the camera needs to be to move from one position to another. So it seems like what we're looking at isn't actually a real object as such. There's an object behind it, but it's something like the heat source. The heat source is the engine, and we're seeing these thermal videos, which is another aspect. We're looking at thermal videos. We're not looking at visible light. So we're looking at something that looks like a flying saucer, but that's just the shape of the heat signature. It's not actually the shape of the object itself. It could be just we're looking at the tailpipe of a jet, and because that's so hot, it just kind of flares up in the camera. You get this kind of optical bloom where things spread out a bit. We call it glare within the camera. It's the same thing as like when this is a little demo I do all the time. I just point my flashlight at the camera, and you can see you can't see the flashlight.
Look, aliens!
The glare is a lot bigger than the flashlight, and it only happens when you're pointing the flashlight at the camera. So there are potential explanations for these things, but we also have the testimony of the pilots, and they are convinced that they saw something amazing. But then you have to think, we've got all these other things, like I just said, the New Jersey thing. Thousands of people thought they saw something amazing. Every single time we can actually analyze the video, it turns out not to be amazing. That also turns out to be the case with a lot of these military sightings as well.
Hey, if you enjoyed this clip, be sure to check out This Week in Space. You can find us on your favorite podcast app or see the link in the description below. See you there.